Y'all know the drill at this point. We've looked at 2 previous updates to this game and reviewed the entire system, so let's just jump right into it. If you're not aware, the Marvel Multiverse RPG is a system kind of like D&D that lets you play as Marvel characters. Probably go watch the video that's on screen right now to go get a little more context if you'd like, but this should kind of get you up to speed. Anyway, the first change is that action modifiers are gone, and it's just ability scores, and they changed the ability score tables. Here's a table comparison. This is the old table, this is the new table. It's not that much of a difference there, it's just like more evenly dispersed, which I think is a good thing. The early ranks felt really bad. However, action modifiers being gone and just having ability scores affects surprisingly little. They were kind of useless. Obviously, it affects the TN, aka the target number for your actual ability rolls. But other than that, it doesn't actually affect very much. It affects your defense score calculation, your initiative modifier calculation, and your running speed calculation. The first 2 are just easier. You have to take less into consideration because you're not worrying about that extra number that didn't mean very much. But the running speed is one that I actually want to deep dive into because it is a little more complicated. So the original speed rule was just 25 feet plus any additional agility that you had. It was very much standard, very much traditional D&D style stuff. But then they changed it so that instead of that, it was in spaces, and they've kept it as spaces. But they've changed the calculation a little bit so that your actual speed in spaces is calculated off of your actual number of agility, and if you have 5 extra agility, you get 5 extra feet of movement, which is 1 space. So it's just a little clearer, and they've added some additional rules for sizing, which was always a little vague, so that's a good addition there. They have also improved the health and focus calculations in order to remove a fun little quirk with the system before this update that allowed you to have 0 health, which means you're dead, idiot. The way the calculation worked before is that it was 20 times your resilience modifier, but you could very easily have a resilience modifier of 0, and that would set your default health to 0, and there was not a default value for when that happens. Now there is. It's 10. I homebrewed mine to 20. I feel pretty smart about doing that. I was pretty close. And on top of adding that default value of 10 for if you have 0, they've also increased the health calculation to times 25 instead of 20, so the health totals will be generally a little higher. And the focus one is exactly the same, but with vigilance instead of resilience. Let's talk damage and take a little trip down memory lane so I can get it through to you just how silly the damage calculation has been in the Marvel Multiverse RPG. Initially, it was you roll 3d6s plus a modifier, that's your damage. Rule 1.1, they updated it, they changed it, now it's your rank times the middle number you rolled on your attack roll, and that's your damage. And then they updated that, they removed the modifier, and it's just the middle number you rolled times your rank, and now they're updating it one final time, and it's the number you rolled times your rank, plus a modifier again that's a little bit lower. I hope that's not too confusing. And damage resistance is actually totally different. They've adjusted it from a flat value to be based on the damage multiplier, which is that rank that you roll, but you can increase it with stuff like super strong or weapons now. But basically you just take the rank that you are going to multiply your damage by and lower it by 1, or however much the damage reduction calls for in the specific instance. Healing! They added healing, for real. They added healing kind of in the last update, but now you can do it anytime and not just when you die, so that's fun. Basically, you just roll a resilience or a vigilance check and you heal that much and you can do it at any time, and that's pretty cool. I might use that. I might stick with my homebrew like health stim rule that I like, but this is something to consider as well alongside that maybe. Maybe they work together. Maybe I just go with this. I don't know. It depends how liberal I get with handing out karma. It does cost karma to use. I forgot to mention that. And of course, they did update weapons like I mentioned. The big change being that you add a damage modifier depending on if you're using a weapon or not, basically. And different weapons do different modifiers. And this opens up a really cool idea for me as a DM to be able to homebrew weapons and be able to give people signature weapons that increase their damage but also add a flavorful thing. This is genuinely very, very logical, and I was going to do something like this anyway, so I'm glad they put it in the game officially. They've added more reaction maneuvers to the game. There were 2 in the base game. I've literally never used them. I think they were pretty useless, but they've added more. So now if you don't have a reaction on your character, there are things that you can use, and I think some of them are pretty good, so let's talk about them. You can aid a teammate, which is very much like aid from D&D. If you've played that, you just give them advantage, aka edge, which is the ability to re-roll a d6 on their roll. If you are unaware, every roll in this game is 3d6s pretty much. If you've been webbed, you can use your reaction to immediately make a might or melee check to break out of that webbing. They took 2 powers and totally changed them to be reactions instead of powers, and those are called Fastball Special and Ram. If you know what Fastball Special is, you can assume the reaction triggers when you get thrown. It's pretty rad. And the last one is actually incredible. You can use it when you get hit, and you can just hit them back. And I don't know how I feel about it quite yet, but initially it feels like it'll speed up combat, which is something that I've run into as a problem before. So I'm actually pretty hopeful about it. I think it could be pretty good, but we'll see. Next up is Karma. They've pretty much only added flavor, but it does affect the mechanics, so it is important to talk about. But basically, if your character is not heroic in nature, so if you're building someone who's like an anti-hero or even a villain flat out, they don't start with Karma anymore. You need to earn Karma, and if you don't use it throughout the course of a day, you lose that Karma. And now we get to the big stuff, powers. This is the old power table. This is the new power table. It's generally an increase in power, which I think is a good thing, especially in the early ranks. But as you can see, there's literally rank 3 that you lose one and rank 4, which is the same. So not that much of a change. Pretty big for early ranks, I think. Okay, so it's like fucking midnight or something, and I'm editing the video and I realized that I forgot to mention something pretty important about the new power table, and it's that you get access to more power sets at the later levels, which I also think is a great improvement. That's it. Continue. The rest of the power changes I don't feel the need to go too into detail on, but I will touch on my highlights. Please go to marvel.com/RPG for the full rules updates and to read each power individually, but I'll give you my Sparks notes. The biggest change to powers is that anything that reduced damage has been absolutely changed so that it takes off of the damage modifier like we talked about earlier, and it just does that now. It doesn't take any flat rate off, and that's for every single power like that. The biggest examples being Shield and Flexible Bones. However, in addition sense, there are 7 new powers to talk about, which is actually really exciting. Brilliance and Discipline are +1s to Logic and Ego attacks. What the fuck are Logic and Ego attacks? I don't fucking know. I've asked on the subreddit, and if you know, please let me know in the comments. I'm trying to figure it out. Is it a power that I missed? Are you just able to attack with any skill and I didn't fucking know that? It's possible, but I didn't think that was the case. I'm confused. I guess like an ego attack could be like quipping, like Spider-Man does. Like that's a power. Maybe that's what it's talking about. I don't know of a single thing that could be a logic attack though. Like maybe you just yell at them really smartly and then they lose focus. Like that's the only thing I can think of. Please let me know if you know though. So like I just mentioned, I did ask the subreddit and they actually gave me a pretty good answer. Shout out to the subreddit, by the way. I'm here quite often. I'm pretty active on the subreddit, probably one of the most subreddits that I'm active on. But I like it a lot. You guys are great. And I got a really good answer from specifically Iskled94. Much appreciate your answer. Sorry if I butchered your name. But he makes a great point. They've talked about alluding to an actual release date at the beginning of 2023. And they might be just gearing up to release a whole bunch of new powers. Some that might fit with logic attacks. And I think that's a great answer. I'm hopeful of that being the case. And I'm looking forward to a full release from the game. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Evasion, Brawling, Integrity, and Wisdom all kind of do the same thing and let you use either logic or ego on the opposing kind of attack, or melee and agility on the opposing kind of attack. And the big one is Accuracy, which is like super strong or mighty but for agility, and lets you increase your multiplier for damage on agility-based attacks. And to put a cap on powers, they've removed the effect resistancy power, and Combat Trickery is now a power when before it was a trait, which makes perfect sense because I think it was easily the best trait in the game. It literally just let you auto crit once per battle. It's incredible. You should probably have that power equipped still. It's great. On to traits. Traits are big. They've changed them from just being traits to also being traits and tags. Here's a chart comparison. This is the before traits, this is the after, and there's not that much of a difference, except now traits are 1-to-1 with your rank. That's how many you can have, which is fine because now there are less traits because a lot of them have been turned into tags. Tags are things like heroic, like I mentioned before, that you can just check off on your character and they kind of tell something about your character. They help you roleplay your character mostly, or they're just something that you can take if you are like a mutant. You get Green Door, for example. So stuff like that, stuff that don't need to be spent trait points on, stuff that just makes sense to the character that you're playing. I'm sure the full list is on screen. Go read them all if you want. I'm not going to read them to you. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not here to read you a bedtime story. Sorry, fuck you. And there are some small updates to traits and tags individually, but I'm not going to go into them because I don't feel like I need to. They're pretty small. Click like, subscribe maybe, and stick around, watch some other videos. We've got a full campaign going on right now every Wednesdays. It's called Cosmic Crusades. We just finished a one-shot and a full campaign on this channel already. So if you just search SyncroChamp Marvel Multiverse RPG, you'll find a whole bunch of different games that I've run on this channel. You can go to the channel to find them. Like I said, one-shot, DC themed, and full Ultron Unleashed campaign. Go look at them, please. That would mean a lot to me. And I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it is that I do make. Bye.